It is October 13th, 2021. This is Sports 845, the award-winning Sports 845 radio show. We cover Section 9, all sports, but we primarily have been focusing on football because football sells the tickets. And we do this show, and we say it every week, because of the time and the effort that the coaches, the players, the ADs, the parents, everybody puts into it. We just don't feel that it's covered or recognized nearly as much as it should be. We have our fun with it. We do our Section 9 top 9 teams. And again, we want to thank the coaches. We can't do it without the access to the coaches or the players. We've had pretty much every coach in here. You guys are two of the last, I think, in Section 9. We've had pretty much, we've missed a few, but we've had plenty.
We've reached out, so hopefully we'll get the rest of them in.
Joining us tonight, Lou Chaffee, the current athletic director at Goshen on an interim basis, which means he'll be there for another 7 or 8 years. Lou's been an athletic director for 40 years. I think it'll be interesting to get an AD's perspective on sports, high school athletics, and the student athlete, because there's a lot of questions that I do want to ask, how an AD views a program and what he looks for. Anthony Finocchio, the head coach of the Washingtonville Wizards, is in tonight. Anthony's you've been in every game.
We've been in every game, yeah. We've definitely been in every game. We're competing week in and week out. That's what's important.
And you have the full support of Danny Botch-Lutke, which goes a long way in Washingtonville.
When you're the Washingtonville head coach, that is the most important.
James Sierra, who is also with us tonight. And 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we had Ryan Baldock in Cornwall, and I said Section 9 is really recognized because of what Cornwall has done. And Ryan corrected me, and he's right. It's what Monroe did initially to get the attention of Section 9. Talk about, and I don't know if you felt any pressure, but Monroe's been down, and now you're there, and Monroe's a good team again. And, Monroe was always the measuring stick up until the last few years since Cornwall took over.
Yeah, and, Coach Connolly and Coach DeLiso basically put Section 9 on the map.
Absolutely.
In the late 90s, early 2000s, and then the run they had, getting to the state championship for those 4 years. And, like you said, the expectations are high. We expect to play for a championship every year, if not win it. Winning a division is not something, making the playoffs is not something that the community and the school,
No.
We love doing it, and we appreciate being able to do it year in and year out. But winning the championships is something that they look for, especially the alumni and those.
I didn't forget. I was saving him for last. My co-host tonight and every night, the great Tom Giordano, who's an assistant on the Middletown varsity football team. They have a very good team. I believe they came in at 3 this week on our top 9. And Middletown plays Monroe this week.
We do. That's going to be a great game.
And Tommy's been around football forever. He's got 4 kids that all play football. So welcome, Tommy.
Thank you.
Dick O'Neill is running a little late, reffing a soccer game. And then he'll be here. Lou, I want to start with you.
Okay.
I want to start with you, and I want to ask, and I'm sure you guys have some interest in this. Lou, as an athletic director, and I know there's a school board, how does hiring a coach work? Do you recommend a coach for the board to look at? Obviously, there's interviews. Is that pretty much, we'll start there?
Yeah, the process is they get interviewed either by the athletic director or, in some cases, a committee. Recommendation goes to the superintendent, and then the superintendent makes a recommendation to the Board of Ed.
And every coach is on a 1-year deal, pretty much?
Yes, all coaching positions are 1 year.
Do certain schools pay more of a stipend than other schools? Meaning, is there a set fee?
No, each district has their own salary scale.
Okay.
Some districts reward you for experience. They have different steps. Like it might be step 1 through 4, you get a certain amount. Steps 5 through 8, you get another amount. But basically, all school districts are different.
Okay. And you've been doing this for 40 years.
Yes, I have.
What do you look for in a coach? You could have the nicest guy in the world, and his team goes 0-10 every year. What do you look for? It's a one-year deal, so the guy comes back or the woman comes back the following year. I assume I'm the ski coach. I assume I'm the football coach or the volleyball coach.
I look for somebody that's going to be able to get the student athletes to perform to the best of their ability. In some cases, that usually means more wins than losses. In some cases, it doesn't. I do not measure a coach on their wins and losses. I measure them on their ability to get the most out of their players. And along with that, of course, the knowledge of the sport, the rapport they establish with their team, and how they practice, things like that.
You know, I want to point out, and well, before I point this out, another question: do you believe a coach should be a member of the faculty of that school, or does it matter?
Push comes to shove, I would prefer a teacher coach, if all things are equal.
If all things are equal.
Yes, because they're in contact with the student athlete on a daily basis. They know how to teach. They know how to the laws of learning. They know how to positively reinforce. Sometimes they know how to negatively reinforce in a positive way. And they understand education. They understand kids, and I think that's important because a coach is a teacher, and it should never be looked at anything else. It doesn't mean an outside coach can't do a good job.
I see pros and cons on both sides.
Yes, yep. But all things being equal, I would rather have a faculty member as a coach.
What I did want to point out is in 2003, you came to Cornwall.
Yes.
And you made a hire there.
Yes, I did.
And it was an out-of-the-box hire,
Yep.
correct?
Yes,
it wasn't
it was.
the norm. And it pretty much jettisoned Cornwall to being what Monroe was in the late 90s?
Early 2000s.
Early
2000.
2000s.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Well, we interviewed quite a few coaches, and Marcus Hughes had applied, and I looked at his resume, and we made contact over the internet, and he interviewed very, very well, and then he sent us a clip of one of his games. At that time, he was an offensive coordinator in Colorado. The game was being played at the University of Colorado on their field, and I looked at. I played high school football as a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the level of play, and it was a very, very high level of play, not only his team, but the team he was playing. So then I made a call to their AD, and their AD said that they were dismissing the entire staff except for Marcus Hughes. And so we brought Marcus in for an interview.
Did Marcus have family in the north? I mean, he's in Colorado. How did he find out about a Cornwall job?
He had a sister who lived in New York City who worked
Okay.
for ABC, and I think that was part of him wanting to come in this direction. He interviewed very, very well. We hired him, and the story I tell about Marcus is I picked him up at the airport in Newark, and we're riding into Cornwall to meet the superintendent, and he says to me, Lou, he says, can you do me a favor? Can you take me to the stadium before we meet the superintendent? And I said to him, Marcus, remember what I told you about the facilities? They're not as good as they should be in Cornwall. And unfortunately, it's still that way today.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is
Yes.
still that way today. So Marcus takes the job. Did he become a member of the faculty at some
Yes,
point?
he taught physical education.
His first year there?
Yes,
Okay, so you had a job for him and everything.
yes,
And Marcus leaves and goes back west.
yes. He went out to Diamond Bar High School in L.A. He was there a couple of years, and the last I was texting with him, I think he was out in the state of Washington coaching.
Good
out there.
football coach.
Yes, very good.
Pretty much started the Cornwall way.
Yes, he did.
You just hired a basketball coach.
Yes, I did.
Again, a little bit out of the box, out of the realm, but we spoke, and you didn't. Do you, before you make an offer, do you have the confidence that the board's going to pass it? or the
Yes.
superintendent?
Yes,
You dot every I and cross every T?
Yes, I think especially in Goshen, I think the superintendent, the reason I'm in Goshen coming out of retirement is I used to work with the superintendent in Cornwall. And I have a lot of faith in him, not only in support, but he understands athletics as well. And, I was fairly confident that he would accept my recommendation.
How'd
which he
you
did.
find Sal D'Angelo?
Uh,
Or did he find you?
He applied. A couple of people mentioned his name, and my answer was, we're going to hire whoever I think is best for the kids in the program, and offered to have him apply, and he did, and he interviewed extremely well, head and shoulders above all the other candidates. So I was very confident that he'll do a very good job.
So at the end of every year, you reevaluate every coach.
Yes,
Does attendance have anything to do with it?
absolutely.
It does.
Yes.
You know, I've always said you could have the best baseball team in the state, and you're going to get 40 to 50 people at a home game. You could have the worst football team in the state. You should get
Yep.
800 to 1,000.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I misread your question. I thought you meant the coaches' attendance.
No, I meant attendance in the community because
Okay.
it leads me to something else, and then I'll get with you guys because most schools in Section 9, especially you guys, you get a tremendous amount of support from the community. There's people at your games all the time, and you briefly touched on it, the expectations and everything. Lou, you were at Monticello, a school that I graduated from. How can something, and if you guys, have you ever played Monticello? No. You go up there and there's,
Well, we played them every year when I was at Goshen, so
there's 12 people at the game.
they were all Goshen people.
Yeah. How do you fix that?
Well,
I know it's not your job as the AD, but
No,
I think you have to have community behind you to be a successful program.
Well, I did the interim a year there, and I think it's a culture fix. I think part of the problem in Monticello is the academic policy. Unfortunately, I think student athletes belong in school, and if you take away athletics from them and don't give them that carrot to come to school, you're not going to get the athletes in school. And I
So
think
there is no,
there was a very strict academic policy there, and I think they were losing a lot of their athletes because
they couldn't uphold it.
they couldn't play, and when you couldn't play for a couple of weeks, you're not going to get that athlete to come to school, at least with a good academic policy. And academics should come first, but you need to get those kids in school, and you need to give them that carrot to come to school. And if it means going to extra help after school and coming to practice late, then so be it. But you've got to be
Basketball team gets a lot of people at their games up there.
well, that's true, but I think a lot of that has to do with the coach and the fact that the coach is pretty stable. In football up there, the history has been like a rotating door, and it's very hard to build a program that way.
We'll be back right after this. That portion of the show was brought to you by Napoli Pizza, 2920 Route 6. They sent us over 2 pies, great pizza. If you're on your way to a Minnesink game, a Port Jervis game, stop at Napoli Pizza, 2920 Route 6, and the phone number is 845-355-6161. They do deliveries. We are back, Sports 845. I am Darren Kunis, joined along with Tom Giordano. We have the Monroe Woodbury football head coach, James Sierra, Anthony Finocchio of Washingtonville, and we're continuing to talk with Lou Chaffee, the Goshen AD. Lou, 40 years. What's changed the most? What emphasis is, I mean, you see all these big high school stadiums and coliseums going up, and it seems to me that there is much more of an emphasis on sports over the last several years.
Well, I think there's a lot of interest, obviously, still in the schools, and I think you've had a growth in your travel soccer, your travel baseball teams, your AAU basketball teams, and I think parents are much more involved now than they've ever been.
That could be good and bad.
That can be good and bad. Everybody thinks that athletes sometimes are Division I.
Have you guys,
athletes.
have either one of you guys ever had a player whose mom and dad didn't think they were D1?
who didn't think they
Right.
would do it. No, yeah, there's plenty. Most parents, I'm going to say, are fairly grounded. When we talk about, because it is something that a lot of people bring up today about, parents being more involved or overly involved, that is usually the rare exception. It's just like with everything in life. It's you tend to notice the outspoken more than everybody else. So we especially where I am, especially the last 3 years in Washingtonville, the parents have been fantastic. We haven't had any of those issues where the parents have been overly pushing their kid or overselling their kid. That's just not something I've encountered yet, thank God.
Yeah, I mean, you may think that I get it in Monroe, but I really don't. I mean, they know what the past has been, and they let us as a staff, they know what we're capable of doing, and they kind of, they're very helpful.
I've always said,
What?
and I've been to games where this coach has no idea what he's doing. And
Oh,
you almost-
everybody hates you from the stands, and you always hear that stuff.
And I
but-
want to say to them, follow the coach around for one day and look at the time and dedication that's put towards it. I always tell a story. My kid had an accident. He was at the hospital. And the first person that was there before me was his football coach. And that's the relationship that I'm sure all you guys have with your student athletes. It really is incredible. And I've never, since I coached and stopped coaching, I've never badmouthed a coach. One, but I've never badmouthed a coach.
just one, just one.
Just once.
Lou, Warwick, Goshen, Spirit Trophy game, Port Jervis, Middletown, Erie Bell. I think one of the silliest things that goes on, and I don't know if it's your decision or the decision of the other school or the Section 9 committee. John S. Burke and Goshen you could hit a golf ball from one school to the next. Why they don't play football every year is mind-boggling to me. It's been about 6-7 years, and I don't think Goshen has played Burke in a varsity football game. Can we answer that?
I can't, no, because I don't do the football schedule.
No, I'm not saying, but
I think part of it might be just the classification numbers.
Yeah, but I mean,
But certainly
Warwick was a double A, and
Right.
I mean, Port Jervis is a B, and they're playing a double A.
Certainly, it would be a natural rivalry, definitely.
It's an absolute rivalry.
Yes.
It would be. It's just something that should be done. You know,
Yep.
the kids all know each other.
Yep,
They play each other in baseball.
I can't disagree with you.
They played for both teams.
Yep.
What would you like to? Is there anything that you'd like to see changed in high school sports?
One thing I'd like to see the league do, and I've talked about this. I haven't been around for 2 years, but when I was in Cornwall and then doing the interims, I'd like to see the modified structure change. I think that and I'm talking basketball now. Perfect example is the three-point shot. The three-point shot, whether you like it or not, and I'm old school, but it's part of the game now.
Yeah, I think it's ruined it, but I agree
Yeah.
with you. It's part of it.
It's evolved into the game, and right now, if you're playing modified basketball, you could take a 21-foot shot and make it, and it still counts as 2 points. And it doesn't mean a whole lot, but that's why we sometimes lose kids to AAU and travel teams and things like that, because we need to make it exciting for the kids as well. And I'd like to see that change in Section 9.
You have beautiful facilities at Goshen. What do you like best about it? About Goshen?
The people.
People?
Yep, they remind me a lot of Cornwall. Very accommodating. Have a lot of good coaches, and a lot of support. And the reason I came out, when I got the call in July, I live in Florida, the state of Florida. I was relaxing, watching TV, and when Curtis Coates called, I know Curtis, and I know what kind of support he would give. I knew that I would enjoy being here for a short period of time.
You mentioned support, meaning, Lou, this is our sports program. Run with it. Make it better.
Yeah, let me do my job. And I think it's important for an athletic director, too, to let the coaches know that they're supported, because coaching You mentioned salaries. Coaching, the people don't coach to get rich. They coach because they love teaching and they love coaching and they love the game that they coach. And it's a very tough job, and they need to know that the athletic director will support them. And, my pitch to the coaches is, as long as you're a professional, I will have your back. And same is true with a superintendent. If they allow me to do my job, I would hope, and I do it right, and I do it professionally, I would hope that the superintendent would have my back.
This is for all three of you before we get into your programs, and I'll start with you, Lou. You hire a football coach or a basketball coach. Do you hand him a playbook?
No.
Good. That's the answer I wanted to hear. Does your AD hand you? This is what we run.
No. My athletic director lets me run wherever I want, which is, I think for any program that's important, because
I think it's very important.
If you're going to be a successful coach, you don't necessarily run what you want to run. You run what best suits your kids.
Thank you.
That's a perfect answer.
Yeah, I mean, we know our kids best. I've run the spread offense for years, and then going into last spring, when I looked at the kids that I had, I thought that running the triple option would suit us better in terms of the kids we had, the linemen we had or didn't have, and we made that decision. It was not a popular one, but nobody in my school district ever questioned that whatsoever.
I'm not going to say the name of the school, but it was years ago, and it rhymes with ocean. And there was an AD there that handed a playbook. My kid was on the team, handed a playbook. This is what we run before day one. And our running back was 132 pounds soaking wet, and we were running Power I. But again, I don't want to say the name of the school, but I thought that was absurd. And I asked the question expecting the answer to be exactly what you guys gave.
Anthony gave the perfect answer. You go with the talent you have. Sometimes you have to change. Coaches do have their own preferences for what they run, but you've got to look at the talent that you have, and you got to do what's best for the talent that's on the field.
Anthony, tell us a little bit about, and Lou, stay around because we have more questions for you. Anthony Finocchio, you've been the head coach with the Wizards for 3 years. One of those years was a COVID year. Did you go to Washingtonville?
No, I didn't go to Washingtonville, but I was hired back in 2006 as a special education teacher there, and so I've basically been in the area teaching for the last, I think this is my 15th year in the district, or 14th, I lost track. But even, I'm in a unique situation in that 6 years ago, my wife and I found out we were having a third child, and we decided we had to upgrade our house because it just wasn't big enough at that time, and we actually relocated 6 years ago into the Washingtonville School District. So I'm in a unique position where I teach in the district, coach in the district, and I'm also a resident. So
It's a beautiful town.
it is beautiful.
You get-
We obviously moved there. I'd been teaching there, so I knew the community well already, which is why we chose it. It's a great community. And like you said, this is the third year I've been the head coach of the program. We definitely had the COVID year in the middle, which was a huge speed bump in our development. But we got right back on the horse this year, and we're headed in the right direction. We're absolutely I told the kids this year our measuring stick was going to be whether or not we were getting better every week, and watching the game film week after week, that we're absolutely getting better every week, and not just in terms of the football stuff, but just as human beings, and we're getting better. So we're heading in the right direction.
You have great support there in the community. You're one of the few schools left that I believe just plays day games, correct?
No, we
You have
Just
No, they have like
just against Monroe.
you have, and you get 5 downs against Monroe.
Yeah.
no, Monroe gets 5 down.
It's only
against
when
us,
we have
yeah.
to knock Middletown out of the playoffs. Then we get 5 down.
yeah,
Exactly.
that wasn't a good one right
These are all the
there.
unspoken
I
rules.
was at that game, and I think the scoreboard said 5th and 2.
It was a good one.
But you do have lights?
Yes,
we
played.
do have lights.
I didn't know that.
Usually we play a couple of day games every year. It depends on the opponent, and usually our homecoming game is moved to a Saturday because the dance is that.
And listen, you've been in every game. Now you're Class A, and you've been Double A for the last several years, I believe, until this year.
Yes, this is our first year down in A. And ironically, though, 3 out of our first 4 opponents were Double A teams. So we definitely, Yeah, we had a tough schedule this year. We definitely had a very tough schedule. Now we're hitting the A side of our schedule. We got Cornwall coming up this week, and then FDR. And then if we win one of these next two games, the playoffs will start. So,
When you win one of these next two games.
Yes, when we win one of these games. But
Tell us about your team. You've been in every game. You have had a tough schedule.
we have been, and like I said, the COVID year set us back a little bit. We have, we started out this year low on the varsity side of the roster. I think we had 28 kids. We had 3 kids we lost for the season, so we're down to about 25 now. But the great thing about our program is, when you look down the practice field, we got about 40 kids on our JV roster right now. And that's considering we have 6 sophomores that we brought up to varsity. We still have about 40 on JV. And I think we have like 45 or 50 kids on the modified level. So we're building in the right direction.
How involved are you in JV and modified?
Youth, the youth program, I'm in communication with the guys there. It was funny when you spoke to Mr. Chaffee that about the parents being more involved in sports. We definitely felt that at our youth level this year. We lost our D1 team as well as our D3 team. And it was mostly because kids playing other sports. We had, I think, 6 kids on the D1 team pulled their registration to play fall baseball this year. So it's, it definitely hurt us down there. The good thing about, though, that I tell people about losing numbers down there is that, you got years to get those kids back. That's fine. It's not the same thing as losing, like JV level kids or freshmen, something like that. I definitely work with the youth guys. I've been down to their practice field a few times this year. They ask me questions. They all have my phone number. I love talking to them. I definitely don't tell them what they need to do, what they need to run, but I give them suggestions whenever they ask for them. In terms of modified and JV, I'm definitely a lot more involved with them. We want those guys using, our same language, our same terminology. And again, they have to tailor what they have to do to the kids they have, but you can do that and still use the same terminology, the same language, so the kids are ready.
Anthony, do you hire your assistant coaches? Lou, do you allow head coaches to hire their assistants for both of you?
Well, ultimately, it falls on the athletic director. However, I certainly have to get input from the head coach and want input from the head coach.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's a complicated question because we actually get this a lot. It's tough not only coaching at the high school level, just because of the hours and the time investment, but every coach has to be certified. Which is
I went through that. I couldn't believe what
that's
it was.
Every year we get lots of people that are like, right, I want to volunteer, I want to help, and then you have to tell them, right, that's great.
Yeah. Just a side note here, I'm fully certified if you need a baseball coach. Go ahead.
But but you have to be certified. Even to volunteer your time, you have to be certified, which means you have to.
I think it was like $900.
It is. That's the problem. It's costly and it's a time investment because you have 3 different workshops you have to complete, the fingerprinting, all the certifications, the classes, and so it's definitely tough finding coaches. So we definitely as coaches have input as to who our staff is.
Have you had the same staff for 3 years?
No, I haven't. I've had to bring in new guys every year.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
And you can did you have to bring in new guys because you wanted to or they wanted to leave?
It's a combination of things every year. Like I said, coaching burnout is a real thing. There's, like you said, there's.
Look at Urban Meyer. He had to go get a lap dance.
Hopefully, we never find ourselves in that situation. But
hopefully, you never get it caught on video.
Yeah. But like I said, you get burnt out because it's an enormous time investment, and none of us do it for the money.
No.
We all do it for the love of the kids and the love of the sport. But
and I think it's the greatest sport there is.
It is. But we do have to find guys.
When we get back, I want to hear about some of your players, and then we'll get to James. Brew Restaurant in Goshen, located at 2 Railroad Avenue. The phone number is 845-360-5719. They have great chicken wings. They have the football games on, baseball games on, and it's also the home of the Irishman, who we will hear from later. I think you even know the Irishman.
I can't wait.
But we'll be right back. Once again, I'm Darren Kunis, joined by Tom Giordano, and we've been talking Section 9 football. Anthony Finocchio is here talking Wizards football. Anthony, you came off listen, I know what it takes to win a football game. Whether it's high school, college, or the NFL, you see these guys win a football game, there's a tremendous amount of work. So every win is a good win and a big win. You're coming off one of those this week. You defeated Valley Central, I believe your first W of the year.
Yes, yeah, it was. And, it's funny you mention how much work goes into a win. And you're right. I think that's one of the main reasons football only plays one game a week. We work 6 days a week, relentlessly just to get a win.
My son always said the easiest day of the week was game day.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, it's funny. As the coach, and I'm sure everybody here could attest to this. On game day, everybody always comes up to you and they're like, "You ready? Are you ready?" And you look back at people and it's like, "Well, I'm ready, but all the work's already been done. All the work that you prepare to get into a football game, all the work in order to win happens days 1 through 6. By game day, all the work's already been made on whether you're going to win or lose."
Who are some of your players?
We got some good ones. We have one linebacker, Ryan Lombardi. That's it's funny. He's a junior, but he's a 3-year starter. He's been starting at middle linebacker for us since his freshman year, since my first year as head coach in Washingtonville. He's I think just this past week he had something like 6 tackles, a fumble recovery, and a sack. He's kind of all over the place. He's got a great nose for the ball. We got a lot of good guys on the defensive side of the ball. Jake Piero, who also plays fullback for us, Jack Del Judas. We got a great batch of defensive linemen where, we could rotate them, and we have 6 or 7 guys that we could put in there. And they're all kind of built like linebackers more so, so they're high motor guys.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fullbacks over there.
We do.
Everyone's looking to borrow one.
Every position is a fullback.
I do.
That was my scouting report going
That's what
into
we
the
did
game.
too.
Was
Same thing we
every
said.
kid is the same position.
I tell everybody, Washingtonville cornered the market in fullbacks. Nobody can have any of them. We have them all. We got 25 of them.
Do you call the offense or the defense?
Yeah, I call the offense, and we have a great defensive coordinator. We actually who used to be over at Monroe, Dave Colabella. He calls the defense for us. But we do. So we got. Yeah, it's like I said, they're all fullback linebacker built kids. So our D line, we got like 7 or 8 kids that we rotate through. James McGinnis, Jake McVeigh, Justin Callahan, just to name a few. And then I think we got 2 kids on the roster that don't fit the fullback mold. One of them is Mario King. He plays nose guard for us. So we do definitely have some good kids. We got some great young kids. Like I said, we have like 6 sophomores that we brought up from the JV this year. One of them, Sean Davis. He's a great wide receiver safety. He's only a sophomore, but he's a playmaker. He again, good nose for the ball. He plays safety and wide receiver for us, but he's definitely a game breaker. He was kind of a secret earlier on in the year for us. But now the last 2 or 3 games we played, we noticed wherever he is, there's 2 kids, 1 kid over the top of him, 1 kid underneath. So it's definitely been tough to get him open.
So you defeated Valley Central last week, and you have arguably, I guess not arguably, your toughest game of the year coming up. Where is it? Is it home?
No, it's at Cornwall. I believe it's their homecoming game. Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit of a slight there to be scheduling you for homecoming.
It is, but I'm sure it falls wherever the schedule falls.
I'm sure.
You prepare for a game like this the same way you prepare for anything. You gotta do your scouting report, and you gotta look for where you think you match up best against them, and then you gotta try to attack. Yep.
Gotcha. So, and what's your playoff scenario? You mentioned it before. Win one of their last 2 games, you're in.
Yeah, so either we beat Cornwall or FDR, and I believe it will be the 5 or the 6 seed. If we win both of the games, then I believe it's a 3-way tie for first place, and then it goes to the random points and everything.
Now, other than football, the big story in Washingtonville obviously is Orange County Bagel opening up there.
Yes, I tell you what, on my way to school every day, I see this construction happening happened, and right as I approached the school, right next to the middle school and the high school, and I found out, the rumor was going to be an Orange County Bagels.
Yes.
And I cannot tell you how psyched out of our
We'll have to
minds
get a
we are.
Wizards helmet in there like we do at all the other stores, and we'll
Absolute-
support you.
Absolutely, and I will come up with a fancy Wizard sandwich, I'm sure, something
Yes,
like
the fullback
that.
sandwich.
Here, this
The
is-
Finocchio.
The Finocchio.
Pinocchio, yeah.
The Finocchio fullback
great.
sandwich.
Yep.
James, you came, and not to say that Anthony didn't come to Washingtonville with big expectations. Anytime there's a new coach hired, there's excitement. And this is not a slight to you, but anytime a new coach was hired, probably in Monroe, there's trepidation. Is he going to be able to do what previous coaches have done? And that's win. And you have won. You've won more than you've lost. Last year you competed in the AA final.
Great game.
In a great game.
It was a great game.
But did you sense any pressure coming into Monroe?
There was no pressure put on me by anybody. It's more pressure on myself. This is my 22nd year coaching, and I was on the staff with Coach DeLiso and Coach Connolly and Coach Hintz in 2013.
I'm sorry, where did you go to high school?
I went to Warwick.
Oh, you went to Warwick.
Yeah, so I went to Warwick. I played at Warwick. Greg Sirico's first year was my senior year.
And you were there with Aaron.
Aaron played for me.
Oh, he played for you.
I started coaching in 1999, 2 years out of high school, and I became an assistant with Greg. And then Aaron played for me. He was a wide receiver, believe it or not.
Don't believe it. By any
And
means.
then when he graduated,
Aaron did run a
yeah.
5.8 40.
Yes, he did. He did. And then when he graduated, he went off to college, community college, and he stuck around, and he became one of my assistant coaches. And then when I took over on the varsity level at 2006, I brought him up, and he was, he's probably done everything for me, from special teams to offensive coordinator. And then in 2012, that was our last year there. Talk about 1 year of contracts. I didn't get rehired at the end of the 2012
In Warwick?
season. In Warwick, yep.
And that was surprising to you?
I think it was surprising to everybody except for maybe one or two people. But that's
It was pretty surprising across section 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
You and Coach Sirico friendly?
Yes, absolutely. And then 2013, honestly, I was retired. I thought I was done. In March of 2013, I've known Coach DeLiso and Coach Connolly since I first started coaching, going to block and tackle camp, and they reached out to me and said, "Would you want to become an assistant coach?" And I said, "Absolutely." You always want to learn from the best guys around, and I can tell you to this day, I've never been around somebody who works harder in preparation for a game. The ins and outs, every minute detail. They know how to coach it. They know how to prep the kids, the time that they put in. And I got to learn from those guys. And it just so happened that in 2013, we made it to the state championship. And we lost to a hell of a team in Aquinas where, 3 of them were Division I players. The one guy's still playing, I think, on Sundays. But
John Mardiniak was still on that staff, right?
Yes. Coach Mardiniak was there with myself and Jim Hintz and Mike Connolly, Bernie Connolly, and Coach DeLiso, who had retired and he wasn't the head coach anymore. So I stayed there for 3 years, and then they all decided to hang it up in 2016, and that's when I was like, all right, I'm done. And it was it's actually the one and only August that I've ever spent time with family.
So that made you want to get right back into coaching?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was in Disney World. I was actually helping Greg do some scouting reports and stuff on the side, and things happened at Burke. And Aaron called me on a Tuesday afternoon, actually Tuesday morning, and I said, from the time that I had stopped, I said the only 2 people that I would ever take a phone call from were Coach DeLiso if he decided to go somewhere else, and Aaron. And he called me up, and I picked up the phone, and I said, I knew why he was calling right away. I didn't even know what happened over there.
And you had some good runs there with Burke.
We did. We
think,
actually
I went to the game. You lost.
we lost in the state 2 years in a row in
to,
2016.
team from Westchester.
We lost to nope. We beat the team we lost to was up north. I want to say God. It started with an O. We lost in the state semis at Kingston. And then,
at Dietz, yeah.
Yep.
And
then
then
the
I went to a
following
game
year,
in Westchester.
Where? We beat Dobbs Ferry.
That's the game.
Yep.
Where I still think Garnett should have been playing defense as well.
Hey, take it up with the head coach.
Wasn't my call.
And then, then we lost in the state semis in the following year in 2017. And then all of a sudden, Section 9 decided that we were too good to play in Class C, so they moved us up to Class B, and we ran into Marlboro in the section semis, and that's where they're at now. So
you're at Monroe. Very happy at Monroe.
Absolutely.
You got new facilities.
Yes. I walked into a great situation, and to be honest with you, after and Aaron bust my chops all the time at the banquet at the end of the Burke season, they gave me a plaque for 20 years and said, "Congratulations on your retirement." I never expected to be at Monroe. I didn't even pursue the job, to be honest with you. I didn't know the job was going to be open until I read the paper on that Monday morning and saw that Ryan was going to Cornwall. And then I got a few phone
I think that was
calls.
a bit of a surprise from everybody, and you wound up playing each other the next year.
Yep, first game of the year. And I went over and I met with Coach Hawk, the athletic director, and I met with the superintendent, and things worked out beautifully. I never thought I would leave my teaching job in Warwick after 16 years, but now I'm in Monroe, and I don't regret any decision.
You lost to Cornwall. You had a ridiculous game against Corning Painted Post, which we ripped apart the committee to get no comments. But you beat Warwick. You beat Kingston, I believe. Did you play Washingtonville? You beat Washingtonville.
Yep.
So you're on a little bit of a run. You have a big litmus test this week coming up against Middletown, but you're at home for it. A rematch of the AA final. Tell us about your team this year.
I've got a few kids back. We graduated 29 seniors, I think, off of last year's team, which was a huge number, most that I've ever had. But the quality kids that I have over there are they're just tremendous. They went to work. We went to work as soon as we possibly could. That game was a classic game that came down. To be honest with you, I didn't think in a minute and 13 seconds that we were going to go 97 yards and have an opportunity to even kick a field goal. But we did, and it just so happened it didn't work out our way. And when we went right back to work, and they were excited. I mean, I think, and Coach can tell you, any kid was excited for this season, knowing the fact that
It's going to be a season.
They knew what was going to happen. Last spring was such a back and forth. Were we playing? Were we not playing? And my kids have every kid has bought in. Monroe is a place unlike Washingtonville, unlike Warwick, unlike Goshen, where the kids come and go. We are changing our socioeconomic status, the type of kids we have in Monroe. People are moving in, people are moving out, and I have a lot of transfers. I mean, one of those kids that transferred up from Nyack, he did get injured.
Someday your fullback's name might be Yutzi Feldman.
Yeah, you never. I'll no comment that one for you. We'll be politically correct on that one. But we've had a couple of kids move in, and very thankful for all the kids we have. But one consistent kid that has stuck with me and been with me for the 3 years is my quarterback, Michael Zrelak.
How do you say his last name?
Zrelak.
Yeah, I've read it. I've seen his name in the little coverage that the paper does provide. But when we get back, you'll tell us about him. This portion of the program was brought to you by Orange County Bagel, with 3 locations, a 4th opening: Middletown, Walden, Goshen, and soon to be, what do they call it? The Ville, over in Washingtonville. And we'll be back right after this with James Sierra. We are back talking with James Sierra, Monroe Woodbury Crusader football. You were talking about Michael's
Zrelak.
You say it.
Zrelak.
Zrelak.
Zeke. We just call him Zeke.
Zeke, that's what I'm going to call him.
There you go. Yeah.
He's been with you for 3 years.
He has, and he's probably played every position except for offensive line.
He was a fullback last year.
Not originally.
Originally, he took over after your fullback got hurt.
Yep. So he started when I took over. We were in the spread. And
What I've heard about Zeke is he has a high football IQ.
He's
which
a very
you just
smart
basically
kid.
said he
AP
plays every position.
AP this, AP that, AP calculus. I'll give him a shout out. He got a 96 on his AP Calc test today. So very smart.
I wasn't even qualified to take calculus.
Knows the entire offense. Knows what everybody's supposed to be doing. He started out as a backup quarterback as a sophomore. He's so athletic. He ended up being a slot receiver for us. Last year, he was in the spring, was the backup, but was also a split end. He played safety a little bit in practice.
Being a quarterback at Monroe is pretty prestigious.
It is a very prestigious thing. It is a very prestigious thing. The precedent was set. You go all the way back to Andre McLeod and those guys, and it's a tough set of shoes to fill. And honestly, I didn't think even going into Camp of Champions at the end of August, he didn't play quarterback.
He's obviously a senior.
He is a senior. Yeah.
Where's he going to
regretfully.
school?
We don't know yet. But he at the end of he didn't play quarterback this year until the first day of summer camp on August 23rd.
And you wouldn't know that watching the film.
No.
It looks like he's been playing it his whole life.
Yeah. And he is playing quarterback because of the transfer that we got from Nyack and Jaden Kalangis, who is a hell of an athlete in himself. And the kids that we have bought in to the system.
You also have a Scancarello on your team.
I do. He's the last.
He's the last of the
one.
Scancarellos,
He
just
is
like
the last
the
one.
Cornwall had the last of the Robinsons.
Yep. He's a very tough kid. Family, born and raised into football. Everything they do is football related, and
Great people.
Absolutely. The entire family in the community of Monroe Woodbury, very supportive. You talk about supportive community and supportive parents. One of the most supportive that we have.
I don't know if you paid attention to it. How was the community when they hired James Sierra?
I don't know. It's different, and that's the one thing I will say. Coming from Warwick and knowing the Goshen-Warwick rivalry and knowing the village of Washingtonville, Monroe Woodbury, and I say Monroe Woodbury because I'll get in trouble if I just say Monroe. It's Highland Mills and it's Harriman and it's Central Valley and it's Monroe. So there's a lot of locations that
Monroe's
all come
the
together.
biggest school in Section 9, or is
Newburgh.
Newburgh?
Newburgh is I think one of the biggest schools
In the state?
In the state.
Okay.
Yeah. They if you look at the beds numbers are like 1,000 to 1,200 more than Monroe. And
Got it. I didn't know that. It was that much of a disparity.
Yeah, it is.
3,000.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So you have a varsity team and one JV team.
We have one JV. We used to have a freshman team, but in the springtime we decided not to have the freshman because most schools around here don't have a freshman.
No.
Cornwall has a freshman, Newburgh has a freshman, but we were playing Section 1 schools, and we looked at, especially in the springtime, the numbers, and we said, you know what, I don't want to have 25 kids or 30 kids on the JV and have 18 to 20 on the.
How many kids on your varsity roster?
On the roster or that are playing?
On the
We have a
roster.
couple kids hurt. Probably 52.
James, at a school, and I should have asked Billy when he was here, do you guys make cuts?
I don't. I make cuts in terms of the kid understanding his expectations of being a part of the Monroe Woodbury football program. So if there is a kid that is borderline, and I would never go in and I'd never cut just one kid. And to be honest with you, we wouldn't even cut a kid based on their athletic ability to be able to play football. Kids take themselves off the team based on academics and behavior first.
Each school has a different academic threshold, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's adopted by the school.
Yes.
By the school board.
And it has nothing to do, coaches have no say in it. Unless you're an AD and a coach at the same time.
I wonder who that is.
Yeah. So, but we have no say in it. I can honestly say that this year, our academic ineligibility policy just came out, and this is the first time that I can remember in my coaching career I had none of my 51 guys were academically ineligible. So, we take pride in that too.
So we talked about Zeke.
Yep.
Tell us some other kids that you got.
We have a couple returning starters. You mentioned Scancarello. He's a inside linebacker for us. My starting center has been with us for almost 3 years. We brought him up midway through, Danny Alexander. He's my starting center. He can basically play any position, offense and defensive line. I have, a couple of young kids. Connor Fitzgibbon, who's my free safety, has had a hell of a
Different one.
a beginning of the year. I mean, the first 4 games he had 5 interceptions, so he is definitely a ball hawk. He's my returner. Receiver-wise, Kevin Tuttle, who's a starting receiver, who's back from last year. He's now playing also outside linebacker for us. So, I have kids. We try to 2-platoon as much as we can. We're at the point in the season now where injuries have kind of taken a toll. I lost a kid in coach's game to a broken leg, so he'll be out. Hopefully, if we can make it far enough, he may be able to come back. But he was probably one of the most dominant kids I've seen in this area in a long time.
What position did he play?
Well, he played defensive tackle. He also played D end. He was our stand-up outside linebacker. He was my backup. He was my tight end.
James, what do you call? You call the offense, the defense?
I call the offense. Yep. And then I have 2 alumni. Rob Kelly, who was on the 2013 state finalist team, is my defensive coordinator with Matt McCullough. And then Brent Vanderwert, who's a Goshen guy, who is my special teams and offensive line coach. So, coach will tell you the same thing. You want to talk about coaches and finding coaches. I have a great set of coaches. And everybody will say that, but it's not easy to find the coaches that I have, and I've done a great job, I think, in finding the guys that I have.
Lou, do you believe a football coach should coach just football, or should he coach other sports as well?
Well, it's a tough question. I think football players should play more than football.
But I'm talking about a coach.
Coaching wise, I think any good coach can be a good coach in another sport.
I do too.
A
But
football coach has a lot of things to do, though. I mean, if you want to work on fitness and weight room during the off season, the coach should be there. And now it's developed into your camp of champions and things that go on before the season starts. So it's pretty tough. I mean, these guys will tell you football is probably one of the, if not the toughest sport to coach.
And that's what I wanted to ask, and neither one of you can answer it. Tell us what a football coach does. Forget the season, when the season ends, or before the season even begins. I don't care who.
I mean, it goes right down the line too. The head coaches have it much harder, and I think to answer your question too, Lou, I think it's very difficult to be a football head coach and then coach another sport
That starts in the spring.
In the spring or even in the winter. You're just so busy year round as the football head coach. The assistant coaches, we have a little bit more leeway, so a lot of times we're able to coach multiple sports. And even then it's difficult. I mean, you really stretch yourself thin. And we're in the same boat as these. Like, I know Tim, and when I was at Goshen with Ed, and I'm sure James and Anthony will say the same thing. You expect your assistants to be there in the weight room. You expect them to be there at all the off-season workouts. So when they're coaching other sports, you got to find time, and time's at a premium. It's tough to do.
So what is the season ends? What do you do? Because I mean, I know what you do, but tell the people that are listening how involved the football coach is.
No, I mean the season, even it doesn't. We after the season, we have the All-Star game and stuff where we're coaching, we're going there with our kids, and then it hits into banquet season. And
then you're making calls to colleges.
All December is the biggest time for that. There's a different school usually around every day of the week, and if they're not, you're reaching out to them for your kids. I mean, and
then it's weight room and preseason.
That's why when you. While I think if they want to, it's okay for a football coach to coach other sports. I just literally cannot fathom that even being possible if you're doing it the right way. It's even, just coaching football. It's 365 days a year.
Yeah.
It's evolved into that. It camps. It used to just be 7-on-7 in the spring, but now it's camps in the spring too. Camps in June, camps in July, and it's not just weight room anymore. You're doing positional groups in the off season and stuff. It's a year-round job.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you
Okay,
say because
you're
I
in
do
the school?
coach.
You're-
I am in the school.
What do you
yes.
teach there?
I teach math.
Okay.
And computer science.
Did you get
Did-
you
uh,
get the AP calculus?
Yeah. Wait. Just to go back, did Zeke get this 96 in your class?
No, never.
Okay.
No. So don't worry. It was an earned 96. Actually, this spring was the first time I was the assistant JV lacrosse coach, and one of the only reasons I did it was because Brent Vanderwert, my assistant, is the head JV lacrosse coach. So we kind of are able to work things out. We do the weight room. I mean, this spring too, we didn't have weight room. Everything was shut down, but the practice doesn't start. So I'm able to run the weight room, go out, and I kind of use it as a way to, and this goes back to having a coach in the building, is to be able to recruit. I think the biggest thing
Absolutely.
that
That's one of the biggest
you
pros.
can tell the difference in school. Like, you can walk through Monroe and there's kids, like, you look at my offensive lineman. I don't have the 6'5", 260-pound kid. There are kids in the building that the recruiting as a head coach and your assistants, I'm lucky enough that I have two of my assistants are in high school. One's a phys ed teacher, one's a health teacher. And, the recruiting is daily. You talk about things year round, trying to get the kids to understand that being a part of a team, in a team of football players, is probably one of the greatest things that you can ever be involved in. If you've never put on a helmet, you've never been in a locker room, it's unlike anything else. And you look at every different school district. And
I still get chills when what's this song by? Come on, help me out. When they play it.
Boys of Fall.
Boys of Fall.
Boys of Fall.
I think it's
Yeah.
by
And-
far
and-
the greatest sport there is.
Yep.
The greatest team game there is.
And it's not even a microcosm of society, because you look at society now and all of the infighting, everything, but you go to a football team and you go in a locker room and it doesn't matter.
No.
Every one of
Well,
those
sports,
kids
I
has
think,
the same
exactly.
goal and the same, we're all heading in the same direction, and we're all trying to win games, and it becomes a family.
So you have, just to get back to the Monroe season.
Yep.
Monroe Woodbury.
Yeah.
You have Middletown coming up, in which you'll announce what play you're going to open with.
Yep.
And then
He
you
says he's not going to run the spread, but he also said he wasn't going to run it last year. And then we're in the championship game, and all of a sudden they're in spread.
and
So we'll see.
So you have Middletown this week
Middletown,
at
Pine
home.
Bush. Yep.
And then
One of only 2 home games, by the way.
And then I would imagine if you do knock off Middletown, then Pine Bush would probably practice or have a walkthrough at Garnet Hospital on a Wednesday, so that game will be out. So you have Middletown, though, coming up, and then just Pine Bush left?
And then Newburgh.
And
the
then
last week.
Newburgh.
Yep.
Oh, so listen, every coach we've had in here, the big schools this year have tremendous schedules.
Yeah.
Really. And I think it's great to see, and I would imagine you would agree. You'd rather play and see what you are.
Yeah. I mean,
You don't
it's
wanna be a
tough.
paper tiger.
We opened up with 2 very tough teams in Cornwall and Corning, and then we've got. Talk about coach improving week after week. Coming off to a win. When you try to get your kids, everybody's on the high of the win, and sometimes, and that was the first conversation we had with our kids on Sundays when we meet with them was, regardless of what Washingtonville's record is, they are going to be tough.
Well,
And they came out and they smacked us in the mouth on the opening drive, and our kids were shell-shocked.
Well, listen, it's Monroe, Cornwall, Middletown, Newburgh, Port Jervis now. They have a target on their back. When you go there, a win over. Listen, when my kid played at Goshen, all we wanted to do is yes, it was great to beat, and it's not belittling a program. It was great to beat Saugerties. It was great to beat FDR and play a tough game against Minnesink. But you wanted Cornwall until the game ended. Then you wanted nothing to do with them. But and that's what you guys face week in and week out, both of you.
Yeah, it's everybody's championship game is the game that we're playing against. So even you talk about preparation, every team can go in, and it's more so when Coach DeLiso and those guys are there. Every team preps to play Monroe from December up until that game. You play the other weeks here and there, but your whole game plan for the entire time is that. And Billy's that way now with us. I can tell you, between Coach and Newburgh, we have the other games, but everything we do thought process-wise is to try to play those games.
I don't I pretend to go to all these games, but I haven't gone to a game in a long time. But the calls we get and the tweets we get at the beginning of the year is other than how good's Monroe this year? How good is Cornwall this year? Who's the surprise team? But right away, it's a given. And that's a lot of, you might not feel it, but there's a lot of pressure at coaching at those schools. And I always say it's an amazing thing. An NFL head coach, I think creating a high school dynasty like Monroe has or Cornwall has is so much tougher than any other position, because in college you're going to living rooms all across the country to get the best kid you could possibly get. In the NFL, you're signing players to multi-year deals. High school, you're rebuilding every year.
And you're not in.
You're losing
college
your best.
NFL, they're not involved in fundraising.
No.
They're not involved in communities.
And you're
they have
losing,
people to do that.
You're losing your best player, who's generally a senior, every year.
We got to take a quick break.
We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. This portion of the show is brought to you by EatYourGreens.com. It is delicious and nutritious, and it could be found at EatYourGreens.com with a Z. And
If you want to fuel your body, if you're a serious athlete, then you need to get into the microgreens.
yes, microgreens. Tom Giordano eats microgreens. He still has the strength, but since he's been eating microgreens, he looks like Clay Aiken now. We'll be back right after this. Before we release our Section 9 Top 9, which means the world. By the way, I'm not going to...
I think it's the best poll in the section.
It is. I'm not going to say who has another poll, but it rhymes with McMillan. And his poll had, it was absurd, I thought.
Yeah, I think it was a little off base, but
A little off base.
we're all entitled to our opinions there.
Lou, 40 years as an AD. Last year, the toughest year you've ever had to experience?
I was lucky. I was in retirement last
you
year.
were
I
in
was gonna say that. I
retirement.
said Lou was still in
That's
Florida.
right. You missed the toughest year.
Yes, I did.
He's where we want to be.
Here's our Section 9 Top 9. Number 1, we'll start at 9. Now we'll go to 1. Starting
We're going
at
to do like David Letterman style and go
Yeah,
backwards?
the top 9 at 9. Cornwall. Any debate there, fellas? Number 1 team in Section 9. NFA comes in at number 2 with a win over Goshen. 3 and 4 will definitely switch at some point over the next week, or stay the same. But Middletown
Could be.
the same.
could be Middletown and Monroe 3 and 4. Port Jervis stays at 5. Minisink Valley is at 6. I went to Cornwall Minisink game. Minising's a tough team. Cornwall is very good. I think defensively they're ahead of their offense. 7 as a team that I don't know much about, but they win. James I. O'Neill.
Very good quarterback.
Anthony was there.
Yeah, no, their quarterback's an absolute stud.
Yeah, Kyle West is very good.
Number 8 is Walk Hill. They beat Beacon last week. You guys, I don't know if anybody was there, but I heard there was the game was stopped short.
I heard that too.
I don't want to say anything because I don't know any
I
facts.
haven't talked to Don Lappy. I was going to give him a call. I heard the same thing. I'm not sure why.
Fight in the game.
Yeah, I guess it got a little chippy at the end. But it
Probably
was 28-3, so
probably arguing whether or not Orange County Bagel is opening up in Walk Hill
Beacon.
or Beacon. At number 8 is Walk Hill, and number 9 is Marlboro.
the Duke's making the first appearance in the poll.
The Duke's making an appearance in the poll. That's what we have as our top 9 in Section 9, which could change each and every week. As we said, Monroe plays Middletown this week. Who does Port have this week?
Well, that's a good one because on the outside looking in, if
Tommy,
we had
tell us about this week coming up.
we had number 10, which we don't do 10, we do 9.
No, it's Section
Red
9.
Hook, and we've been hearing a lot of things from the Red Hook fans. How Red Hook's having a very good season. We're going to find out because they play Port Jervis this week. So that's a big one. That's one of the big games coming up this week. This week we got Friday night. We got some early games. Liberty at Marlboro at 5. O'Neill at Highland at 5.
Let me stop for 1 second. Here's something that I would like to ask the committee as well. An incident happened in Arlington, and an incident could happen anywhere. Friday Night Lights is Friday Night Lights for a reason. First of all, most parents can't get to a game at 5 o'clock. The game should start at 7:30. Changing these times because of one incident that happened, I think is wrong.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why Marlboro and Highland are playing their games earlier this week.
That might not be the reason, but I did hear, and I
Well,
don't know
the
if you
Newburgh
guys
game,
want
we
to...
ended up playing right after that, the week after, we played at Newburgh, and that game was moved forward.
AA championship game is at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, that's also silly.
And that's, yeah, because that's at Monroe, right?
It's at Monroe.
But you guys agree with me with the time? Shouldn't the time stay the same?
Friday night, 7 o'clock. Nothing like it.
I'm sorry, Tom.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like James hit the nail on the head. Playing 7 o'clock on a Friday night, you can get tons of fans there. I mean, the atmosphere is outrageous. And I will just give you this: Newburgh, it was fantastic there. We played a little earlier. The fans were great, and it was a great game. And so it really didn't take away from it. But anytime Middletown, Monroe, and Newburgh get together, it really doesn't matter what time you're playing. People are going to show up to that game.
Yeah, I was. I definitely understand it from both sides of the argument. I know administrators get nervous with nighttime games about crowd control, but the thing about football that's different than a lot of other sports is that whole idea. It's at the same time every week. You have Friday night, 7 o'clock, high school football. It's at a time where every student, every member of the community can make it. And it's a tradition. Friday night, 7 o'clock, high school football, Saturday college football, Sunday NFL.
Yep, I agree.
Lou, does the athletic director get involved in anything like that, or is that a committee thing that changes times?
No,
Listen, SATs and stuff like that I can understand.
Yeah.
But because of an incident that happened in another area,
You're always concerned about safety, and
course.
Whether it's the players, the coaches, the parents, the regular fans, the students. So I think what happened in Arlington obviously had a small effect on other schools, because it was kind of a warning that it could happen anywhere, and we've got to be very careful about that.
before Lou goes, I want to mention a few things here. Lou played baseball at Siena
Yes.
and still holds records there as a pitcher for ERA in a season.
Yes.
And what's your other record?
Just that.
Gave up the longest home run in history? What
No.
is ERA?
No, luckily I played with a guy named Gary Holly who played basketball at Siena, and he eventually signed with, I think, the Texas Rangers. And luckily I didn't have to pitch against him. He was on the Siena's team.
And Lou has also built a good friendship and relationship with Sam Perkins, where he ran basketball camps with Sam. Lou is a basketball guy. So the new basketball coach, you could bet, is going to do well because Lou has an eye for basketball. You guys follow any of the NFL? A favorite team?
I have a favorite team, but I probably, like Coach here, I don't get to actually watch
Who do you root for?
college or NFL football until after our season's over. But, I was born and raised in New York, so I'm a Giants fan.
I was born and raised in New York, but I actually don't have. I have a favorite, anything with Bill Belichick, being a head football coach, and Tom Brady. I like watching the game of football.
I
it
enjoy
doesn't mean, it
greatness.
doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The only thing I really watch the NFL for is my fantasy team.
Me too.
And to figure out who I'm starting and who I'm not.
Yeah. It's great. We're all around the same age, and we got to see Michael Jordan play basketball, Wayne Gretzky play hockey, Tom Brady play football, and Roger Federer or someone play tennis. We got to see some of the greatest of all time. And, I'm sick of hearing from older people, you never saw Mantle or Williams. No, I didn't. And they were great. But we got to see some of the greatest of all time. What are your thoughts on Kyrie Irving?
It's a tough situation. I mean, we're dealing with it in high school too. I mean, we kind of try to keep our kids. I mean, in terms of vaccinated and unvaccinated kids, it's up to every family, and that's their choice. We deal with it in terms of putting kids on a bus.
You're not paying those kids $45 million.
100% agree with that. 100% agree. And it's a tough thing. I mean, he's getting paid a lot. Well, now he's not getting paid money, right? Because he's not.
No, I think they
playing.
pay him anyway.
Do
But
they?
I'll tell you this. Kyrie Irving, no matter where he's been, if this was someone else, he gets maybe a little bit of a pass. But wherever Kyrie Irving has gone, whether it's Duke, Cleveland, the Celtics, and now the Nets, he's been a pain in the ass wherever he's gone. And if Kyrie Irving 2 months ago would have said, my body, my choice, I've heard different things about the vaccine, I'm afraid of getting it, I think people would have bought in. But a week before the season, and he's still not even acknowledging whether or not he was, which he obviously wasn't, whether or not he was or wasn't vaccinated, I think it's a very selfish move. I mean, the bottom line is knucklehead, to be nice. I mean, he's just... I think he's being very unfair to Kevin Durant, very unfair to the other players, the fan base, the NBA, and
Yeah, I mean, it changes the complexity of the league in terms of, who the top tier team. Not like Kevin Durant and those guys aren't going to be in the top tier of the league, but it's still. I mean, adding that guy gives them another piece of the puzzle. So.
Yeah, that's a political question, and there's people smarter than me that can answer those. I'm with you on that. I think it's a person's personal choice. There's pros and cons for both. He's got to do what he feels is right for him.
If you watch any, I know you don't watch any, you don't have time to watch any college football. We talked about it last week. I've never seen a defense at a collegiate level like Georgia. I mean, and Alabama gets picked off last week. Georgia's defense is unbelievable.
Their defensive line.
Unbelievable.
I mean, you got a kid that big that can run that fast and chase guys down.
Yeah, they're going to be a handful for anybody that they play.
Guys, I thank you very much for coming in. Again, we can't do it without the coaches. We appreciate it very much. We root for everybody, and when the season ends, our favorite team is the team that advances to the States. Good luck to Monroe this week. Tough game against Middletown. Anthony, get back-to-back wins. And
They got
Tommy?
a big one with Cornwall.
Yeah, that's what I said. Good luck to everybody. Lou, really appreciate it. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Great to be here.
Lou Chaffee, the Goshen Athletic Director. Thank you very much.